Hello, and thank you for joining us at BATV's Falto Studios inside Batavia High School. My name is Kathy Gressy, editor of the Kane County Chronicle, and I will be your host and moderator today on Viewpoint. Viewpoint is a roundtable talk show that highlights a specific topic that is being discussed in our community. In today's show, we will discuss the use of Chromebook technology in the schools. Here to participate in this discussion are Steve Masajewski, principal of Rotolo Middle School, Angie Sutherland, instructional technologist for District 101, and Ellen Knautz, Batavia parent. Thank you for joining us today. Steve, for our first question, on May 27th, Batavia School District 101 board members approved a $1 million lease with U.S. Bank Equipment Finance Technology Group so the district can purchase Chromebooks for all students in grades 6 through 12. Can you explain what this will mean for those particular students?
Sure. What an exciting time for kids to be involved in Chromebook technology and actually to be able to get it in their hand to do their education with, literally by going class to class throughout the whole building. So I think having that ability will really change and change the educational system that we're used to having, so to say, and give kids a whole lot more ability to interact with each other, to have education and look things up at their fingertips, literally. So that's just part of the scope of where I think the district's going with this.
How long have you been in education?
A long time. 20 plus years just here in Batavia. So I've seen a lot of changes, and I mean, really, my opinion is that in the next 10 years, technology is really going to change really the way schools have traditionally looked.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm sure being in education as long as you've had, this is a big thing compared to 20 years ago or even longer than that, when this never would have even been on the table, really.
Yeah, I think we're going through probably the fastest period of change that I've gone through in a lot, and maybe even ever. I mean, so we've gone from Radio Shack TRS 80s to where we're at today. I mean, that's really a significant change, and really it'll be so much better for students to have, again, education at their fingertips, to be able to go places and do things and maybe mold their education to what they really need to be doing.
Sure. Our conversation is just getting underway. When we return, we will hear from more of our Viewpoint guests. Stay tuned.
It's your time in the fun.
Race your friends. Bring your work group.
Bring the whole family.
See who's best of the best.
Battle it out in a cool way on a hot day with Water Wars.
Swing, batter, and hit one out of the park.
Drive them crazy and in circles with bumper boats.
And mini golf, indoors or outside, for kids of all ages.
So round them up and head on over to Funway.
Because it's always a fun day at Funway.
Hi, I'm Tom Wangler, president of Confident Air. Regular maintenance can prolong the life of your furnace and keep your energy costs to a minimum. Plus, there's less of a chance of a breakdown on a cold winter night. Your furnace needs proper care and attention to keep it running smoothly, so you don't end up paying too much for heating during the cold winter months, or worse yet, with deadly carbon monoxide poisoning. We recommend an annual inspection to ensure safe operation. Confident Air, your trusted home comfort professionals since 1992.
Welcome back to Viewpoint. Angie, we're talking about Chromebooks being introduced to District 1 schools for students in 6th through 12th grade. The plan calls for a $75 student registration fee increase for grades 6 to 12. How will this fee impact families, and what if families can't afford to pay the new fee?
Sure. That student registration increase is applied toward the cost of the Chromebook and cases that students will be getting to protect the Chromebooks, and really that $75 a year for 2 years covers half the cost of the Chromebook, which is subsidized by the district for the other half. And students who are not able to necessarily afford that will be given an opportunity to take part, their families, in a payment plan, and students who are already on a free and reduced lunch plan through the district will also have incremental, decreases in cost according to that particular plan. I really feel like the opportunities that will give them, that access to their learning and ability to live inside the classroom as they do outside the classroom was very exciting, and I think it will provide for them a lot of opportunities. As far as that cost going to our student fees, we were really in comparison to districts around the area at the lower end of cost, and that brings us up to a mid-range for the surrounding areas. So I think that's about it.
So we realize that, for families that have multiple kids in the middle school or at the high school, that fees in general can kind of become excessive, maybe not excessive is the right word, but exorbitant or cost prohibitive for some families. And I'm pretty sure that there's a payment plan structure in place to help families manage those costs. Again, I don't think it's anybody's intent or desire to eliminate educational opportunities from kids as opposed to get Chromebooks and get the technology in all kids' hands.
Sure. Ellen, you are a parent of students who attend District 101 schools and you attend school board meetings for the district. Where do you stand on this new fee for students in 6th through 12th grade?
Well, the fees that I pay for my children to attend the first day of school are some of the highest fees in the public school district in this area. For my 3 children, one in elementary, one in middle school, and one in high school, that bill last year was $485. And that included $288 in registration fees and $197 in consumables such as textbooks and workbooks. And that was before the additional $75 fee that will be added this year. And there was no guarantee made at any school board meeting that I attended that the Chromebooks would reduce my $197 consumable fee. I am also a property taxpayer, as every parent is, who feels that the school district should be able to meet its mission within its own means. In December, the school board voted on a new levy, which brought in an additional $7 million to its budget. And even with this levy, the parents are required to subsidize the technology initiative with this additional student fee. Not to mention that if our student's device is broken or damaged, we will have to pay between $260 and $300 for a replacement. Other districts provide insurance options, the least of which is $30 a year with a $100 deductible. And at the last school board meeting I attended, the district was unable to provide figures regarding insurance for parents. As a person who is being charged $75 per child, this stakeholder has not been convinced that each student having their own Chromebook is the most cost-effective component in delivering a quality education to our children. While I feel technology is an important tool in the education of our children, there are also other factors that contribute to the success of our students, such as low teacher-to-student ratios, maintaining buildings that promote the best learning environment, and ongoing education to our staff. These are all part of a multi-million-dollar school budget that are not subsidized by student fees. District administration and the school board needs to live within its means to make the tough decisions with limited resources and rely on minimal contributions from parents who also happen to be property taxpayers.
I would say that your concerns probably echo those of some others in the district at least. Is this a topic that you've talked about with your neighbors and the parents of your children's friends? Do you find that some people do agree with you on your thoughts on that, or that they're really, excited despite the cost to get this technology?
I've talked to some parents. I by no means have talked to a good sampling of the Batavia residents. I would say that parents are concerned about the additional $75 in addition to the registration fee and the consumable fees, which doesn't include the fees to do extracurricular activities. I think some parents are questioning the device itself of a Chromebook when they have laptops at home and their children have their own tablets in addition to the Chromebooks that are going to be implemented in the schools next year.
Steve or Angie, if a student were to already have a Chromebook, would they still need to get another Chromebook?
In this scenario, in order to be able to make it really feasible for teachers to deliver instruction consistently, we're changing a lot in the way instruction is going to be delivered in the classroom. And to then throw in a multitude of devices would be really asking too much of them in this short period of time. So the short-term plan is that all students would be having consistent devices so that the troubleshooting issues are not the focus in the classroom. The focus still is on the learning. It should not be on the technology. The technology really should be as invisible as possible, and it's really about the opportunities students will have for learning that they haven't been able to access in the past. And so we really want to see students have the ability to enhance their learning opportunities and teaching opportunities in the classroom. And I think by allowing students to have a consistent device, we're better able to meet those goals.
I'm not going to deny that cost is always an issue, and that it's important for taxpayers or groups of taxpayers to look out and monitor school board spending and things like that. About 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, I took the opportunity, actually I was invited into some 6th grade classrooms because students were interviewing various staff to put together presentations on Chromebooks, and their perspective was going to be, to talk about how we could encourage the school board to vote yes for Chromebooks. So it was very interesting to see and to hear their questions and to hear their perspectives, because they were like so into the opportunity that they have had in 6th grade, that they just really didn't want to lose that in 7th grade, which is what would have happened. But it was so reassuring, one, that they were actually using some of their skills right in front of me with their Chromebooks, and then asking structured questions really to kind of do persuasion and how they could, what they needed to do to keep their Chromebooks.
Sure.
So I know that oftentimes kids don't agree with the spending that mom and dad went to budget and have those concerns, but really loud and clear with the kids how they felt about Chromebooks and how it's changed their experience just in a year.
Sure. And Angie, Ellen brought up things can happen with things that are given to children. Certainly things can break, they can become lost or damaged. If that happens in the case with the Chromebooks, how does the district respond to that? Are the parents liable for a cost?
Certainly, things break, they will. These devices belong to the students. And just like their cell phones, just like the textbooks that they lease from the district, if damage is done to them, they are responsible for that damage. And families are, ultimately responsible for that because it, goes down the line, of course. But, in talking to other districts where they have implemented, one-to-one devices with students, they have found that is really not as much of an issue as they anticipated, just because the kids value having that experience in the classroom, and so therefore they also value their property and take relatively good care of it. That's not to say that accidents aren't going to happen and that there are going to be, some things, but hopefully it will not be as much of a concern as I think people are worried about right now.
Do you guys know, I'd just be curious, having a laptop for work myself after a couple years using it now, these things, you can tell that someone's been using them, particularly with the keyboards and little crumbs and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. After the 2 years is up for any one student, is there a plan to clean these up and try to use them again, or what's the process after that?
Well, as I said, those devices belong to the students. So when the 2 years is up, they are their
get 'em.
devices. They have them, and they're not going to be, cleaned up and rejuvenated and put back in the system somehow. They're going to, stay with the families and hopefully can be.
And then the student will be required to buy a new. The student will then have a new Chromebook after
For the
2
next
years.
2 years.
So there will be a Chromebook at home, and then they will then have a new Chromebook.
Or whatever that device may be. I don't know that it's been decided that it's going to be a Chromebook. I don't know. I mean, technology changes so rapidly. So it may be a Chromebook. It may be some other Google Cloud device or something like that. So.
Who knows? Things in technology change so quickly that I think, right now that's the current plan put into place, that after 2 years, and that's part of the reason for it, that because things are so rapidly changing and because of the wear and tear that you mentioned, that those devices might not be a viable option at that point any longer. And so therefore, having something that is reliable for students to use in the classroom, there might be a better option at that time.
Sure. Steve, will the Chromebooks replace any or all of the textbooks students use in grade 6 through 12? And how will Chromebooks change how students submit or complete various types of homework? For example, will students now have to email more assignments or something like that? Or is it still being worked out?
It's a pretty open-ended question. For next year, we're not looking at replacing any textbooks, so to say. In the future, I would venture to guess, yeah, I think that all of that will happen, whether that's in 5 years or 10 years. I can't imagine that it would take longer than 10 years to do some of those things. As far as assignments, sure, it's going to change the way students not only do work, but present work and get credit for work. So teachers will do a variety of different managements with Google Docs and Google folders in order to provide kids feedback and things like that. Absolutely, but it's not, the kids don't struggle with that. It's the adults that struggle with all of that.
Sure.
And teaching the adults how to help them manage the work and how to provide feedback to kids right away and things like that, which is really a really cool thing, that teachers literally in the moment can be commenting on a piece of work that kids are working on. The management of all of that is really an adult issue. Kids doing email, sending it to a certain place, that's their native. What's the term? It's kind of their native language. It's not mine. So.
I know that my high schooler, when he took English, was required to submit his papers electronically through turnitin.com, which we were charged for as a consumable. Whether or not the Google Chrome will eliminate that fee, I'm not sure. But they already have things in place at the high school for utilizing electronic files.
That's interesting. I've not heard of that program before, turnitin.com. Is there more security with submitting an assignment that way via just emailing it, where there's so many free options for email? Or
I have not looked at turnitin.com. I don't know if Angie knows more. I was assuming that it was probably checking for plagiarism.
Okay.
You're 100% correct. That is the benefit, of that particular program. And, so if that's something that they want to make sure that they're still checking, they may still use that program. I don't know what the plans are. But, I really think that the whole thing, turning it in, whatever, it's less of a change in skill set. It's more of a change in mindset. And just the way we do things are going to be different. And I think that the days of, turning it in and getting it back and never revisiting it are over, because really the things that students are turning in are really in progress, and teachers are able to give that formative feedback as they're progressing, and it's constant, and they're able to revise and edit as they go, and there's some really different opportunities that students haven't had in the past because of that wait time that existed, and now I think that wait time is limited. So it really affords some great opportunities for teachers to be able to be more hands-on with students and to help them learn and meet their goals in that way.
I've really seen the value of that with papers. My my 8th grader in 6th grade was part of the pilot project. And it really is cumbersome to be able to learn how to write by first writing by hand and then having someone edit that paper and then pretty much having to write it by hand again. And so utilizing technology makes that process much less cumbersome and more valuable. I was wondering if, Angie, you could provide some examples of how that will help in like a mathematics or a science classroom, having that technology?
Sure. Really, it's going to help across the board in all curricular areas. I know that if you walk into a math classroom today, there are many things happening that you may not have seen in the past. For example, some of the 6th grade teachers are doing what is called flipping the classroom. So they're creating some little short, 1-minute instructional videos that the students work on or listen to at home. They get that content rather than being in a lecture type situation in the classroom, and when they come to class they have bell work or a little short assignment they're given at the beginning of class where they demonstrate that skill, and that is then really given automatic, that feedback is given automatically to the teacher, and then they can address any issues that might exist at that time and differentiate instruction for different groups of students. And that's happening in math classrooms, so you have students who are working at a different pace, maybe working on different content based on their strengths and based on areas where they need help, and the teacher's able to really monitor that a lot better than in the past. I know that they also use some programs that give students practice in the math classroom where it automatically adjusts to the students' ability, so therefore challenging them when they need more challenge, and then scaling things back a little bit when they need more practice. So those types of things are happening, and mostly due to the Chromebooks, just because they haven't had access to that in the past. As far as the science classroom goes, I've seen a lot of great work with labs, and where they are using those tools to be able to talk about their observations, make a hypothesis, and then come back and really look at the data and be able to graph data and come to different conclusions that maybe would have taken them more time, so they can move on to other things.
Yeah, you answered that question really well, but like at the middle school we have specific intervention classes using a particular program, I think like Angie said, where it really targets the kids' specific skill level. So pre-tests are given, students work, it gives them immediate feedback. There's a teacher right there to help them in the moment, so to say, and then kids can see how much of the pie, for lack of a better phrase, of content that they've learned and still need to know. And the kids can kind of self-select, well, today I'm going to go work in this area. Tomorrow I'm going to go work in this area. So again, it gives them a little choice and voice in what they get to do. And then at any particular time in a regular classroom where they may have some study time and they know that they're weak on a skill, they can go to a math site and boom, get some extra help or some extra practice in that particular thing.
Sure. So that personalization of their learning, as well as student ownership of where they are and where they need to go, is a really exciting step in the process.
We have a great conversation going so far. Stay tuned for more Viewpoint.
The Drendel and Jansen's Law Group has practiced law in Aurora since 1961 and in Batavia since 1994.
We focus our energy on representing people and businesses and families in the local community.
We represent clients in Kane and surrounding counties in matters ranging from divorce to wills, business law to zoning.
We focus our efforts on planning and working towards positive resolutions for businesses and families.
When clients need someone to fight for their interests, we're ready, willing, and able to act as aggressive advocates to protect their interests.
Drendel and Jansen's Law Group with offices in Batavia and Aurora and located on the web at batavialaw.com.
The Kane County Chronicle is your best source for news and information in print and online in the Tri-Cities and Caneland.
This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.
Welcome back to Viewpoint. Angie, what is the personal device plan for students at the lower grade levels?
The second year of the plan calls for students in grades 3 through 5 to also enter into the one-to-one program with Chromebooks, the device that was chosen. And then students at lower grades, pre-K, I don't know where they are right now, that's still being determined, but certainly K through 2 will have some sort of personal device, and right now we're thinking that a tablet is probably a better option because of the tactile skills for students, and the keyboard is less necessary at those ages while they're still figuring out how everything works.
Gotcha. And here's an open question for the group. In light of the recent sexting incident that occurred in the district, what will be done to ensure students responsibly use these Chromebooks? Steve, how about we start with you?
Sure, I knew we were going to get to that sometime. Here's the thing. First of all, I think what everybody has to realize is kids are kids, and they're going to venture into areas just because they can, the same way we probably did when we were adolescents. The second thing to remember is that we live in a great community and we have great kids. And for the most part, for the very vast majority of our kids, they are responsible. And they do follow rules, and they do follow structures, and they understand the difference between right and wrong, and what to do and what not to do. So when it comes to the whole issue of a couple of 3 weeks ago, I think we're looking at a very limited incident, and the incident didn't even happen at school. It was just reported to us at school.
Sure.
But again, there will always be, no matter what it is, there will always be the question of what if somebody goes here and what if something happens around that. So we're going to teach them. We teach them now about internet safety in our computer classes. We'll do more of that at the beginning of next year. We're going to offer an evening for parents to come in and also hear about internet safety and some of those kinds of things. So it'll be laid out for them very clearly. And I think they probably already know what to do and what not to do. But again, there's always going to be the occasional incident that's going to happen. We could try to safeguard against that the best we could with whatever kinds of internet filters the district has to help with that. But again, there's such limited issues of those kinds of things happening now that it's really not a major concern.
Sure.
Yeah, there are, a couple things. When I work with teachers and in turn with students, we're constantly talking to them about that positive digital presence, and that really they are forming their social media presence, and it will be something that follows them. And so we really need to be constantly stressing with students and in turn with teachers to be able to form a positive digital footprint as they go online, so that as they enter the workforce or college and people search them or look for them, that they're really finding out what amazing, wonderful people they are and not seeing, the negative. And so really weaving that in with everything we do is important. Teaching things, digital citizenship, it's important to address it, but really doing it out of context has less impact than it does when you're teaching it constantly. Just like with manners and good behavior and all of those things. But, and also like Steve said, the district also has, other things in place, like the filters on our network. Students in grades below high school really function in email within what's called a walled garden, so they cannot email anyone outside of the district, and people from outside of the district can't email them. So there are things put in place, but I think more importantly, it's just important to stress to them that they need to live their lives digitally how they want people to view them for the rest of their lives.
And not just from the school saying that to the students, but really those are conversations that parents need to have with with their children too, because it's not just about, well, you have a Chromebook and now you can do this at school, because really I think, like Angie said, the school environment's really fairly well protected, but they have other devices and they have other access outside of school that parents need to be checking and following up with and having those kinds of conversations with their children at home.
Ellen, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure. I just think that no school district can protect our children from what can happen if there's not good digital citizenship or the pitfalls that can happen with a computer. So children getting Chromebooks is just another device that parents have to be vigilant with. We can assume that the school is doing its best to prevent apps from being downloaded and inappropriate messages from being sent, but quite honestly, technology happens too fast that if anyone said that they could prevent things from happening, they would not be correct. So the one-on-one attention to every device that your child has is important, and I know that I should be doing it more frequently than I do, and I do it seems like when something happens, like a sexting scandal. But I encourage every parent to actually Google their child's name, because if they can Google it, so can a potential employer, a teacher, a predator, and it's amazing what you can possibly find. And it's one of the only ways that you can understand how other people see your child on the internet. And it is really scary to type your child's name in quotes and then hit that enter button and see what comes up. But you will also learn about potential bullying that can be going on, videos of your child that you didn't know were posted, either posted by your child or posted by another person. I do think that the district could be more proactive in informing parents. It's quite honestly a community of who finds out what first and then letting parents know about it. And it doesn't really require a formal session for parents to attend. It could just be an email blast of, hey, do you know that Vine.com, you can do things in 6 seconds that really shouldn't be posted on the internet? And did you know that Ask.fm can not only, post pictures, but can harbor racist and sexist and homophobic language that if an potential employer saw, they would just throw that person's application in the trash can. So I think that the school obviously does its best, but parents still have to be as vigilant as if the school was doing nothing.
Sure. And Ellen, what has been your children's reaction to the addition of Chromebooks, knowing that they're coming?
Well, it's been mixed, I guess. My third grader was part of a pilot program, and he was very excited about the Chromebook. In fact, it was exciting for me because he was doing a PowerPoint presentation that he was able to do at home as well.
That blows my mind. You just said third grader and PowerPoint in the same.
Right. And so that's exciting for him. He does get a little frustrated. He is technologically savvy, so he's frustrated that the Chromebook doesn't have a caps lock and it does not have a right mouse button. You have to actually do a Control-Alt mouse button to get right mouse button functionality. So he finds that to be a little cumbersome. I do think that password management at the third grade level can be an issue. I know that they're told that they shouldn't be sharing it, but while he hides typing in his long password, he said that others of his classmates don't, and he's sure that now other classmates know their own others' passwords. He did mention that kids do try to play games rather than do work, and I do think that while he's excited about it, it does create a little bit of a slippery slope because they're allowed to use the camera, the camera functionality to take pictures of themselves, and being so used to just taking a picture and then posting it as your background makes it difficult to say, well, you could post it on the background, but don't post it on the internet. So I think that there's still some education to go on there. My high schooler is not convinced that the Chromebooks are really going to replace his heavy textbooks, that he's still going to have heavy textbooks and now a Chromebook. Currently, when a teacher brings in laptops for him to use, he emails himself the work to do at home. And so he doesn't see how the Chromebooks are going to significantly improve that process. He is concerned about how fragile the device is, and even with the sleeve and the financial responsibility we have for another device. And he's had classmates tell him about teachers who are not excited about the introduction of Chromebooks into the class. My middle schooler was part of the 6th grade pilot in 2012-2013. It wasn't as great as he thought it was going to be due to the connectivity issues with the Wi-Fi, but I am aware that they are going to, I think, ramp it up so that they're going to assume that each student has 3 devices that could access the Wi-Fi network, so that shouldn't be an issue. There have been class discussions regarding this initiative, and he feels that many of the students in there feel like it's a waste of money. He just does the math and thinks, well, if a kindergartner charged $75, that in 10 years they'll have spent $750 in technology and have 5 Chromebooks at home. And he's also had classmates tell him about teachers who are not excited for the introduction of the Chromebook. So I would have to say that it's mixed.
Lots of mixed reactions in there. And you did talk a little bit about one of your children watching games be played. That's like something everybody's got to kind of deal with, I feel like, in the work environment, making sure your coworkers aren't watching YouTube videos, and now we're talking about kids with technology where they can kind of veer off in their own direction. Is that the type of thing you guys are already experienced in monitoring? I mean, do you got to literally walk around and make sure these kids aren't goofing off? Or?
Sure, but that's part of what teachers do all the time anyway. And to be honest, I'm just going to, again, say that when I was an elementary student, I probably wasn't always focused on, on the work at hand, and found a variety of ways to, variety of things to distract myself away from the actual learning that was happening in the classroom. So kids are going to do those things. It's our job to engage kids. I think we all believe that the use of technology will help with that student engagement, and then to monitor their use of it. Yeah, I think it's a tremendously exciting time. Teachers, sure, I think there are some teachers that are probably a little worried about how I'm going to integrate those things in the classroom. But by and large, our teachers are just pumped up about using it. And I think the success that we've had with our 6th graders has carried over or carried up to our 7th grade teachers and our 8th grade teachers. So, yeah.
Well, we're nearing the end of the conversation here, and it's time for final thoughts. Steve, we'll start with you. Final thoughts about introducing Chromebooks to grades 6 through 12 in District 101.
It's a great thing. Schools are going to be vastly different 10 years from now than they are today. We need to put the technology in our kids' hands so that they're ready for the future.
Thank you. Angie.
I'm so excited for the opportunities that exist to extend learning beyond the classroom, for students to collaborate where they haven't been able to collaborate in the past, and really enhance the teaching and learning process. And I think we're going to see some really exciting things from our students, even beyond PowerPoints in 3rd grade. So I'm excited about those opportunities for students and for the teachers in the classroom.
Thank you so much. And Ellen?
I think that technology is very important to have in the classrooms, and I think if given the time, the teachers will be able to utilize it to the best of their ability. I do feel that it is the school board's responsibility to manage the school district within their means and not to rely on parents to subsidize initiatives that they want to do. While we may be mid-range in registration fees, I do feel that we are the highest in the area when you add consumables fees to that, and adding an additional $75 per student is pretty much going to top us out.
Thank you to all of our guests on this episode of Viewpoint. We hope that we have answered viewer questions about the Chromebook technology. To watch previous episodes of Viewpoint, or if you have a topic you would like to see discussed on a future episode of Viewpoint, please submit a request through the BATV website at www.mybatv.com. I'm Kathy Gressy. See you next time on Viewpoint.